In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys something quite surprising. I've done a video like this before, but I'm doing another one right here, and I'm showing people how their inverter can practically kill their batteries. Now, in this video, you're seeing my 10 kVA inverter and my 10 kilowatt hour lithium phosphate battery. So what I'm priming it for is just to give us a preliminary test on how much energy is going to be draining from the battery. Now, I live off grid, so that means every watt hour counts a lot. So that's one of the things that pushed me into this kind of experiment so that people will be aware of what is happening to their system. Now, some people think that when you have a 5 kVA, 2 kVA, 3 kVA inverter, once you connect it to your batteries, it's not drawing any load. So they begin to think that, oh, I only put on one bulb, two bulbs. How come my battery is running down? So into this experiment, you're going to also have an answer to that. Now remember, I've done a video like this before, so you may want to check it, and I did for 3 different inverters, so you can go up and check. I'll leave the link in the description below and on my end screen as well. So that way you'll be able to find out exactly that. Now to start this experiment, we have to reset our meter. Not very necessary, but most of the time I just reset it before I get started. So that's how I run this experiment. Now the first thing is that when you put it on, this is a 10 kVA inverter we're looking at. A lot of people in my part of the world, they have a way of saying, oh, you know what, I want a 10 kVA system, I want a 10 kVA system. Now your 10 kVA system, depending on the battery that goes with it and what you want to power at home, might be a curse. So let the experiment begin, then we'll talk about how it affects you in real life. So I'll put on the battery, and now you can see I want to reset the watt meter now. So when you long press, it's a CTL, or yes, you press again and 0 comes on. So that means it's on 0. Now it wasn't really necessary for me to press it, but then I just try to reset whenever I'm doing experiments. That way you cannot afford to look back and see. If you had known, you would have you'd have reset to 0. So the inverter is on, and you can see the watt is shooting up. So there you have it. We have 139 watts, 140 watts. That is what we are pulling from the battery just for putting on this inverter. Now we're going to go to the display of the inverter so that you'll be sure that it's 0% that we're drawing from it, because sometimes it's hard to believe. So I'm cycling through so we get to the load that we're pulling from it. So you can see for yourself, 0%. That's what we're getting from the inverter. So what the inverter is showing you now is that you are not using anything. However, in our meter, you see we are using 140 watts from our battery. Now let's begin to connect this into real life situation. The first things first we're going to do is to first of all know exactly what you are going to draw from your battery in 24 hours, and that is a very easy math to solve. What you just do is to multiply 140 watts times the amount of hours you are going to put it on. In my case, if I was using that inverter, it was going to be for 24 hours non-stop. So that means I'll be drawing 3,360 watt hour from my battery, so which is 3.36 kilowatt hour. That is what I'll be drawing on a daily basis just for my inverter, to save my inverter. Now this may not be big, or I don't know how you are going to look at it, but let's put into perspective. I've done a capacity test also for a 5 kilowatt hour lithium phosphate battery, and the usable energy from it was somewhere around 4,000. Well, I'll leave the link so you can watch it yourself on my end screen as well, so that way you begin to see how these things work. Now if you are drawing 3,360 watt hour from, let's say, 5 kilowatt hour battery, which is complete, how much energy do you have left? About 1,500 to use. So that should help you understand where we are going to. Now let's talk about some persons that have installed for in a self-contained apartment. So let me just give you a rundown of what they basically use. On the average, they use the fan. So let's just put that at about 40 watts. And of course, they use a television 32 inches or less sometimes. So let's just put that it at 50 watts. Then of course they rarely use more than 4 bulb lights, so that puts it at 4 times 5 5 watt bulb, that's 20 watts. Then of course a very small diffuser, which is somewhere around 50 60 watts. Let's just say 50 watts, very small, like it just a two and a half feet from the ground. Now, if they are running for 16 hours a day, because there's no way they're going to put on everything for 24 hours, the bulbs are going to be turned off at some point. The TV cannot work 24 hours. And of course, the person is not going to just stay at home and put on the fan for 24 hours. So that way, when you do your calculation, you're going to find out that you're going to be drawing about 2,560 watt hour. That's what you're going to be drawing in a whole day. Now remember, just that inverter that we put on just now, it is drawing 3,360 watt hour, which is more than what somebody in a self-contained is going to be using. Now let's even assume that you go ahead to put it on for 24 hours. You're going to be drawing 3,840 watt hour. The items I just mentioned for someone that's living in a self-contained apartment. And meanwhile, if you are putting on your freezer, for those of you who know how freezers operate, they don't really operate 100% throughout the time, the whole time. They operate somewhere around 50% of their full capacity. So if it is put on for maybe that 16 hours and we're using about 60%, let's just push it to 60%, that will mean that your total load will now fall on somewhere around 2,160 watt hour, which is 2.16 kilowatt hour. So I hope it is not confusing. Now, if you are going for 24 hours, putting that freezer that is coming on and off, you're going to use about 3,240 kilowatt hour on a day, which is still less than what the inverter will be drawing throughout the day. So I hope this is helpful, because a lot of us, we don't understand how these things work. We just keep thinking that I need a 10 kVA to run my house, 10 kVA, my friend has a 10 kVA. Now, this should help you to know that you don't really need a 10 kVA. What you need is to know exactly what you want to power and go for it. Now, just to stretch this a bit, let's assume that you are going to be using this for two lead acid batteries, 220 amp hour 12 volt batteries. It will shock you to know that two of your 12 volts 220 amp hour battery will not be able to hold this inverter for 24 hours. You can also check my capacity test that I did for a 12 volt 220 amp hour battery, and you are going to see for yourself that this inverter will run them down in just over 20 hours. I hope you guys learned something from this video, because if you think that the bigger your kVA, the better for you, no. You only go for big kVAs when you know that you absolutely need it, and you have to have a battery backup that corresponds with it. That's the way it runs. Now, don't mind my voice. I was putting off making this video because yesterday and the day before yesterday, my voice wasn't really up there. So now that I can just at least talk so you guys can hear me, I decided to proceed and give us this video, because I like being consistent on my channel now. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment and let me know what you want to see about this setup that I put out there, this 10 kilowatt hour and the 10 kVA. I'm doing a lot of tests about it, and your comments can help me do something that I've not done with it just yet. So see you guys, and catch you on the next one.